Okay, hi, I'm Anne-Sophie. I work for BP. I'm the head of Global Process Architecture. And yesterday we heard a lot about customer experience and over the course of the presentations, a lot also about how you connect strategy. And thanks, Peter. You know, it was really brilliant in terms of setting up the scene for the critical importance of creating coherence between strategy and execution. I want to share the journey that Castrol BP have been on to create a process excellence function and evolve its role in order to create that coherence between strategy and execution. So after a little bit of context, I will discuss how we've set up our process excellence function, why we have process architecture, and what mission we've given it over the course of time. And I do realize I'm standing in between you and lunch. I don't mind interruptions, so if you have a question, you don't want to wait till the end, please shout out. So a few words about BP. This is what I got from the corporate website at the top. I don't really get the analogy, probably because I'm French, but this is a cup of tea analogy. So we produce 3.3 million barrels a day, which is the equivalent of 16 Olympic pools of tea, apparently. Lots of brands, 85,000 people. And if you think of filling up 4 cars per second, 4 planes per minute, that's the sort of thing that BP does. It produces a lot of oil, gets it out of the ground, and refines it, produces products, and then sells those products. Fuels, things that go in the car, in planes, in ships, in industry machinery. I work for Castrol. Castrol's the lubricants company of the BP group. It was a standalone company. It was bought in 2000. So we've been, if you like, adding to the BP realm. And it's a very customer-driven part of BP, very different in that sense. You can see how many customers are served every day. It's very intense with regards to brand management, marketing, lots of creativity, lots of entrepreneurship, not a lot of processes. People don't respond to processes very, very easily. So it's the sort of culture that prevails, and it's a very important thing to note. Customer-wise, we serve large distributors who then resell to smaller businesses. We sell to retailers, so you can pick up a bottle of oil to do your refill yourself. We sell to workshops and car manufacturers, industry equipment manufacturers, some companies much bigger than we are ourselves. So why process architecture, and then why strategic process architecture? It's a bit of a moving target. We are responding to a challenging sales environment. Sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's helping. But one thing is constant within the BP group, and that's cost discipline. Capital and cost discipline is the absolute rule. So we need processes that can stand the course through these variations in the market, through that constant around capital spend, but also within a rather still unfinished standardization of ERPs. We are a global company. We're part of a global group. We have huge lists of legacy systems. And it takes time to get all of that aligned. And of course, as all of you have experienced in your respective companies, we have also set up our global business services and transformed that, and are still transforming that over time. So, we started with this. That was the mission 3 years ago. So we needed processes, and we needed processes that could stand, the course of time and those changes. So we came up with this. We gave ourselves a mission to create process standards, govern those process standards, and the KPIs and the data that go with it, A little bit of a education role in the organization because of the culture that we're in. So people don't necessarily recognize that they're part of a process. So what something that's done before me, what does the next person do? That's not like language that was there. We were still the vehicle for deploying SAP, so that doesn't go away, right? That consolidation of ERPs still goes on while we're setting up a process excellence function. It was a process function, right? Excellence, we're aiming for it, but that's for others to say. Process functions for sure. And then a little bit about waste and waste removal and improvement. We've gone on our CI journey. We've hired the master black belts. We've trained the green belts and the black belts, as a lot of you have. So that was also a part of the mission that we gave ourselves. Now, show of hands, whose company's actually gone through the same or similar kind of journey? Okay, quite a few. So, that's it, right? We've done this, right? We've done this thing, yeah? We started with mapping and created all of the process excellence activity that everybody creates, right? So we looked at what are the key processes, and then we mapped them to level 2, level 3, level 4. We then built a tool that could act as a library for all of that good stuff. Some of it is prescribed by the group anyway, so we have to do it. The big question is why? And I'll come back to what Peter was saying before. Why are we doing this? What's the point? Yeah, so we keep ourselves busy and we can grow the organization, but why? What is the raison d'etre for a process function? And at that point, we'd built the organization, we'd hired the experts, it's all set up and it's operating, and we've got the design authorities, by the way. I didn't mention the governance behind all of this. So we have regular meetings where people who want to change the process come to people in my team and go, okay, I want to change this process because I don't like it, or it doesn't work the way I want it to work. So we've got a vehicle for having that conversation and making those decisions. The reality is we had built this, yeah? So got pretty adept at designing processes, governing processes, even partnering with IT. Yes, we do that relatively well. So once we've decided to change something, then the architects will talk to the solution architects and kind of decide how it's going to be enacted in the IT system. But despite this rather good-looking cycle, we still have, or had, or still have a little, the transformation projects, when they come knock on the process excellence door and go, I want to change this. Can you change this for me? They go, well, why? Why do you want to change it? And actually come, not when they're thinking of changing, but actually when they can't go forward because they need you to change it. Anybody experience that in your organization? Like execute phase, yeah? Let me talk to you now that we're in execute. And the reality is, to do it at that point, even if you feed all of that great, colorful cycle, and apologies for the absence of yellow men in my presentation. I hope I'm still keeping your attention. Even if you feed it with your best practice process, yeah? So you come to events like that and you talk to wonderful people who've done this before, and actually, you know what? They've got the best order-to-cash process you could ever dream of. So you take it and you implement it in your company. You have a best practice process. Have you ever seen a best practice process fail to be adopted or give you the business outcome that you weren't looking for? Ever seen that? Well, we have. And we fed all of this with IT roadmap as well, because we've got lots of applications being replaced all the time. Continuous improvement, as I said, we had that program in place. And best practice for business process management. But meanwhile, all of that is going on. Yeah, we talked about strategy. Strategy is going to be that unique, that intent is going to be the result of a unique combination of goals, right? Your company isn't chasing all of these goals at the same time. It's going for cost reduction, it's going for superior quality, it's going for safety, or whatever might be the combination that you need to have right now to move your company forward. The question is, do you have that divide between what governs the rules that presides to your process design? Do you have that divide between that and the strategic intent? Because if you do, then the brutal truth is you get this. You get a wrong design. It's not wrong per se. It's just wrong for the purpose that you're pursuing. It's wrong for the strategic intent you're trying to get to. It doesn't flow through, as we heard in some of the presentations before. And if it doesn't flow through, it doesn't catch. Your acceptance will be low. You'll get lack of commitment for adhering to the new process that you've delivered. And you'll get, instead of cross-functional collaboration, which is the ultimate enabler of your process success, you'll get reinforced silos in your functions, because people don't relate the execution, the manifestation of the operation to the strategic goal or the big why. They don't relate to it. So now, what's the mission? So where do we go from here? And what's the, I'm going to share our learnings on the journey, right? There's no right or wrong. This is what we learned over time in that 3 years of formal existence. And what we learned is, well, basically, if you don't materialize every strategic intent in your process operations, then you're diluting that strategic intent, and when it hits the ground on the person, the customer service rep or the manufacturing employee who's doing something every day, the work happens there, right? If they can't relate the process they're having to follow to the strategic intent, then we've got lack of coherence, and that's where we fall down. One of the most powerful enablers that we found is the process as the company's assets. What does that mean? That means that it is processes and the message around process design is probably the easiest way to create commonality of language in the organization. So making those processes visible for all to see is one of the most powerful enablers that we have found. I'll come back to that in a minute. But really, we're talking about translating here from that strategic intent into process execution. And that translation job is absolutely not to be disregarded. Because we're trying to create that language, that dialogue between the process gurus, the process experts, the people who have that knowledge of how it works backstage, together with your business stakeholders, your functional and operational people. And they need simplicity. Those stakeholders will need simplicity. They will not relate to the super complex business process management theory, the complicated process maps, or the other clever tools that we tend to use. They will relate to, here's my problem, or here's my strategy, translated into simple process execution. So if you want this, then I can do it this way, or I can do it that way. And here are the pros and cons associated with both sets of options. So this is the translation job that I'm talking about, and it takes more than just technical expertise or knowledge about the process. It takes that, but it also takes the change leadership, and it also takes the stakeholder management. Common assets. So we have the ARIS mapping as well. That's the group tool. So we've done all of that documentation work. It's hard to maintain, but we're getting there. But what we've done is we've created stuff like that. So what you see on the left side is, remember this one? this one here, it's the same one, right? It's just slightly more cosmetically appealing, I find. So we've done that one to be able to show on one page to all of our business stakeholders, here's the whole of our processes. Of course, it's super high level, but actually, if you work in planning, this is where you sit on that map. If you're a sales guy, you're in the blue patch over there. And the simplicity of relating to something like that with little personas is just a defining moment we found in our relationships to our internal stakeholders, just to be able to put something on the table and go, let's look at this. It's probably not the way you do it. It's probably not the way it should be done exactly, because we take shortcuts for representation purposes, but it's a good basis for dialogue around, is this still fit for purpose? Does it do what you're intending to do with your operation or your function? Or should we scrap it? Should we improve it? It's just that common picture that we can all relate to. We've done that to a certain level of degree of detail, which on the right here you see is a bit of a flow. So we've got these little personas at the top, and basically we define those for all of the roles in the organization and then visually represent how the sequence of activity works, yeah, and the information flows. And it doesn't get super detailed. It will never go to the nth variation, but it's good enough to demystify process and process design. So is that enough? Is that enough? We came up with this then. So it's a little bit more than governing standards. It's actually moving on from that to, okay, let's design for strategy, or at least let's make sure what we've designed is good for strategy. And by the way, strategy evolves. So does it stand the test of time is the next question. We've now established process excellence as a recognized business partner. That's very satisfactory, satisfying after 3 years of existence. But is it enough? Will this make us cope with the changes around us? The answer is probably no. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough because our consumer experience, as we've discussed a few times between yesterday and today, our consumer experience shapes our customer expectations. So we behave in a way at home. We don't expect to be treated differently when we're in interactions at work. Therefore, fast is the new perfect. And can process design cope with this? Can processes be redesigned every 3 months? Or are we going to be locked in rooms for 18 months, develop and deliver something that is obsolete the way on the day that you deliver it? As a process architecture leader, that's what keeps me awake at night at the moment. So where next? We know that customer experience and investing in customer experience creates value. We know we have to do it. That's a lot better said, easier said than done. Accenture reckons that more than 2/3 of companies will have stopped doing business because of poor experience. So somebody talked about a burning platform. That's a really good one for us as well. And we're making the hypothesis that potentially processes can be a catalyst for growth. Can processes play a role in this evolution? Can process excellence be positioned in the cross-functional suite to actually deliver growth or enable growth for the company? We're making the hypothesis that this is the case, and I just want to share with you one example, and this is early days, something that we're doing, which puts process excellence at the right table at the right time to have the right conversations. This is a program of redesigning customer experience for a variety of reasons, and I won't bore you with those, but the point is redesigning targeted priority processes, those that will have a high impact on creation of loyalty with our customers, is part of that cross-functional program that we're setting up. And the goal, as you can see here, is not just about improving processes. It's actually creating or improving processes with a purpose, and that purpose is unlocking that top line growth alongside a number of other levers that we are pulling. So in order to do this, we're trying a few things, and I guess for us as the process excellence team, it's a matter of being able to respond to the changes and to embrace that fast-paced delivery. We are used to the waterfall thing, right? That's what we've done always. And so like all of the other functions, we have to adapt to this new way of working. So embracing the fast pace and, super importantly, the cross-functional working, because we're big, we're matrix, we're siloed, like a lot of your companies are. Therefore, we're going to break that down. And one thing that we found is that when you give people the freedom to change something, sometimes they don't take it. They're like, I can't do this. All of a sudden, you're giving me power I'm not used to anymore, because I might have had it when we were this small, like years and years ago, but actually, I haven't had the authority to change something, improve something, or challenge something for years. And that empowerment is a real challenge. Changing the behaviors, making sure that people will be willing to use the freedom is a real challenge. But we're giving it a go, and to help us move towards that, we're using a couple of methodologies which you can see represented at the bottom here. One is design thinking, and we spoke about this. It's very early days. We're taking baby steps, but trying to just make it simple. Just put ourselves in the shoes of the user or the customer, what matters, and define from there. And in delivering this program, we're also piloting the Agile framework as our vehicle for delivery to force us to adopt those behaviors, because we have to go through the motions before it becomes DNA. So getting us together in small groups, sprinting, cross-functional collaboration, radical thinking. One of the big questions for me is when is your process so not fit for purpose that actually you're better off rewriting it completely, starting from a blank sheet of paper? I don't have an absolute answer, but that's one of the places in the organization where people will come up with the answer and go, okay, in this case, just start again. Okay? So that's what I wanted to share with you. Please ask me questions if you have any, and I'll be happy to have a go.
Anne-Sophie, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
In fact, I'm old enough to remember the liquid engineering ads, and actually your agile profile looks quite similar to the old ad where it climbed up the tin. Any questions for Anne-Sophie? Yes.
Hello, thank you. Really interesting about the Agile framework. I was hoping to hear more about that subject here, but you were the first one presenting it, and just almost at the end, can you give us an example of one area or one process or that you've worked with the Agile framework without being in the IT?
And so I'll try, and there's a couple of people in my team who are here today as well, Joe Provino and Rachel Gallimore, and they're also involved, so if you want to know more, the three of us can follow up. Yes, I'll give you a couple of examples of some of the working sessions that I've been part of. We found, for example, that our sales guys are distracted from selling, from visiting customers, for a variety of reasons, and some of them are processes that are a bit cumbersome and clunky and don't work as intended. One of them I'll give you as an example is the pricing approval. So customer asks for a price, we want to make a proposal, takes 3 people in 10 days to get that price approved, ready to be given to the customer for, do you like it, right? So we gathered a team around that one in a room, and Joe was leading that, and said, okay, what's broken, right? What is the customer What does the customer expect? And we did the journey mapping that we discussed a few times. What does the customer journey look like? What are the pain points there? And mirror that with what our internal process. Okay, so where are the things that we have to do or we think we have to do in order to feed that customer journey? And visually, there are things that we create, little loops that we create that just feed the beast. They're just for our consumption, right? So what does that tell us? It tells us that we build in a lot of stuff in our processes that obviously doesn't directly create value to our customers, but also sometimes do not create any value internally either. So we've redesigned that. And there is an aspect of tooling to it. So sometimes if you want to get the full benefit of the redesign, you need the process and the tool, or the process and the IT piece, but not always. And for us, it's one of these investigation grounds of actually, is this methodology going to work only if there is an IT piece or a digital app on the other end of the work, or can it actually be applied to make us as a process design team able to reinvent what we give to the business every X months? Can we, it's a challenge. I don't have the answer. Don't know for sure. I'm going to tell a future truth. We might succeed. Yeah, we might succeed. I think that was a
good question.
One.
Any other questions? Oh, half blind. Sorry.
Hello, so Anu here from Travelex. Great presentation. My question was, if you could go back 3 years and start again, what would you do differently?
Oh, did you read this? I'm sorry, I can't take that one. If we had to start again 3 years ago, I think we'd do a bit of design thinking on the organization itself, actually. So we'd probably consult a little bit closer with both customers and internal stakeholders and go, okay, rather than embracing the whole scope of how do you do process well and go with that, probably we would have been a bit more targeted about how do you decide where your process is going to really make a difference and go big on those. Because I've got global remit, all processes from financial posting to supply chain and blending operations all the way to cash posting or whatever. It's too big to be good everywhere. But you can't be excellent in all of these processes. Plus, there are different beasts. Some of them are completely administered by global business services and completely standard. Some are yet to be mapped, right? Because we just do stuff, but it's not processes. So all of that is not of the same critical importance to your growth as a company and to delivering your strategy. So that segmentation is one thing we would probably be sharper about, because the resulting organization would have looked a little different. And the second thing I'd say, there's probably a lot more, but the second thing I'd say is go bigger on that CI mindset cultural change, because you can try to build it afterwards and kind of power your pecs with the mindset, but actually building it with that intent in mind is probably a lot more effective. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Anne-Sophie, thank you very much.
Okay.